Just because he couldn't choose a chocolate, Jungkook got the entire box. Coincidence, or a power he never asked for? What really happened in that airplane aisle, and why did the internet stop breathing for 30 seconds? Was it just a flight attendant being kind, or did the world once again witness a strange, almost unsettling phenomenon that seems to follow Jungkook wherever he goes? A quiet, effortless magnetism that turns ordinary moments into viral legends? And here's the question everyone keeps asking but no one dares to answer directly. How can someone receive so much without ever asking for anything at all? On December 17, 2025, a short video, barely half a minute long, began circulating on X. It did not contain choreography, no stage lights, no screaming crowd, no luxury brand logos, no dramatic speech. Instead, it showed Jungkook standing in the narrow space of an airplane aisle, staring at a box of chocolates with an expression so serious, so focused, that it felt almost comically out of place. And yet, within hours, this tiny fragment of daily life ignited a global reaction that said far more about fame, aura, and human instinct than any polished performance ever could. Why did millions feel something watching him hesitate? Why did fans laugh, melt, and, strangely, feel emotional over a man simply trying to choose a chocolate? The video, uploaded by the fan account at John Ives on December 17th, quickly surpassed tens of thousands of likes. In it, Jungkook is offered chocolates by a flight attendant. He examines them carefully, murmuring softly in Korean, "Let me see." His tone is gentle, unhurried. There is no entitlement in his posture, no celebrity impatience. He doesn't wave a hand or rush the moment. Instead, he looks like someone who genuinely doesn't want to choose wrong. And then something unexpected happens. The flight attendant, watching him struggle, not because he wants more, but because he doesn't know which one to take, makes a decision that changes the entire emotional trajectory of the clip. She offers more, then more, and finally, with a smile that feels instinctive rather than rehearsed, she hands him the entire box and says, "You can take it." In that instant, Jungkook's reaction becomes the heart of the story. His eyes widen. He laughs in disbelief. He thanks her repeatedly. He covers his face, as if embarrassed by the generosity, as if he never imagined this outcome. The moment ends not with triumph, but with shy gratitude. And yet, the internet exploded. Why did this resonate so deeply? Why did people call it power without effort? Why did fans joke that they would give him the entire chocolate factory? And why did that joke feel oddly sincere? To understand this, one must look beyond the chocolate. Jungkook is no stranger to global attention. As the youngest member of BTS, his life has unfolded under a microscope for over a decade. He has been praised, criticized, idealized, and projected upon. But what makes this moment different is precisely what it lacks. There is no performance here. No image management. No intentional fan service. This is not Jungkook trying to be charming. This is Jungkook being uncertain, and uncertainty, it seems, disarms people. Fans were quick to label him, e.g., a Korean term often used to describe someone baby-like in a lovable way. But this wasn't about infantilizing a grown man. It was about recognizing a softness that feels increasingly rare in public figures, especially ones with his level of influence. He did not leverage his status. He did not speak loudly. He did not even smile at first. He simply stood there thinking that what people respond to now. Not dominance, not confidence, not charisma in its loudest form, but gentleness. Netizens began asking the same question repeatedly across platforms. Would the flight attendant have done this for anyone else? Was it pure kindness? Or was she, like millions before her, subconsciously reacting to something intangible yet undeniable? Psychologists have long discussed the concept of warm aura, the kind of presence that triggers nurturing instincts in others. It's not about beauty alone. It's about perceived vulnerability combined with politeness. Jungkook's body language in the video, slightly hunched forward, eyes scanning carefully, voice low, communicates respect. He doesn't assume. He doesn't take. He waits, and people, when faced with someone who waits rather than demands, often give more than expected. This is why many fans describe the moment not as luck, but as a pattern. They pointed out that this isn't the first time Jungkook has received spontaneous kindness in public. Stories of staff members, strangers, and even industry professionals treating him with unusual affection have circulated for years. The difference now is visibility. In an era where every candid moment can become content, this small exchange was captured and shared, and once shared, dissected. Some praised the flight attendant's kindness, calling it a refreshing example of human warmth. Others joked that Jungkook's baby energy had struck again. But beneath the humor, a more curious discussion emerged. Is there a kind of power that exists beyond fame? A power rooted not in authority, but in approachability. Jungkook didn't ask for the entire box. He didn't even hint at wanting it. In fact, his hesitation suggested the opposite. And yet, he received more than what was initially offered. This contradiction is what made the moment irresistible in a world obsessed with hustle, ambition, and taking space. Here was someone gaining simply by being considerate. And perhaps that's why the clip felt almost radical. It challenged the idea that to receive, one must demand. The timing of this moment also matters. Jungkook has only recently begun appearing more actively in public again after a period of relative quiet. Fans have been watching closely, interpreting every appearance as a sign of growth, of change, of return. So when this video surfaced, it didn't exist in isolation. It became part of a larger emotional narrative. ARMY, the global fandom of BTS, is known for its attentiveness. They don't just consume content, they contextualize it. To them, this wasn't just a cute interaction. It was confirmation that Jungkook, despite everything, global fame, wealth, influence, remains fundamentally the same person who once nervously auditioned as a teenager. And that realization hits harder than any stage spectacle. Comments flooded in almost instantly. Successfully charmed another person, this e.g. The way she cooed at him like he's a baby. At this point, I'd give him the whole chocolate factory. These weren't just jokes. They were expressions of collective affection, rooted in a shared understanding of his personality, but not everyone saw it the same way. Some observers questioned the implications. Is it fair that celebrities receive extra kindness? Does fame distort everyday interactions? These questions lingered quietly beneath the flood of heart emojis and laughing reactions. And yet, even those who raised such concerns often conceded one thing: Jungkook didn't exploit the moment. He didn't expect it. That may be the most important detail of all. There is something deeply human about being caught off guard by generosity. Jungkook's immediate instinct was not to celebrate, but to thank. He bowed slightly. He covered his face. He expressed embarrassment, not entitlement. And in doing so, he validated the kindness rather than absorbing it silently. This is why the moment worked. It felt mutual. The flight attendant wasn't performing for a camera. Jungkook wasn't performing for fans. The exchange existed in a brief, authentic pocket of time, and authenticity, once captured, is powerful currency online. As the video continued to circulate, media outlets began picking it up, framing it as yet another example of Jungkook's irresistible charm. Headlines spoke of effortless power and natural aura. But perhaps the more accurate description is this: Jungkook creates space for kindness by not filling it with ego. That, more than fame, is what draws people in, and so the question remains. Was this just a box of chocolates? Or was it a reminder that in a hyper-curated world, the smallest unscripted moments can reveal the most about why certain figures endure? Why do people want to give to Jungkook? Why do they smile when he hesitates? Why does his uncertainty feel comforting rather than weak? The answers may not lie in strategy or branding. They may lie in something far simpler and far rarer: a gentle presence, a polite pause, a human moment, and sometimes that's all it takes to receive the whole box. And yet, the story does not stop at the chocolate box, because moments like these never truly end when the video cuts to black. They linger, they echo, they trigger something deeper in the collective consciousness of those watching. The question quietly shifts from "what just happened?" to "why does this keep happening to him?" Because if this were an isolated incident, perhaps it would have faded as quickly as it appeared. 30 seconds, a few laughs, a fleeting smile. But the reason this moment refuses to disappear from timelines, conversations, and media coverage is because it feels familiar. Not staged familiar, but pattern familiar. As if the world has seen this scene before, only with different settings, different people, and different small acts of generosity gravitating toward the same person. This is where curiosity turns into fascination. Observers began revisiting past interactions, resurfacing old clips, anecdotes, and behind-the-scenes stories. Staff members who once spoke about Jungkook's manners. Industry insiders who described him as unexpectedly gentle. Strangers who recalled brief encounters where he bowed first, spoke softly, listened more than he talked. None of these moments were dramatic on their own, but together, they form a quiet narrative that now feels impossible to ignore. Did I ask it coincidence? Or is there a kind of social gravity at play? In media psychology, there is a concept often discussed but rarely seen so clearly in real time: reciprocal warmth. When one person approaches an interaction without pressure, without entitlement, others instinctively compensate by giving more. Not because they have to, but because they want to. Jungkook's hesitation over the chocolates was not indecision born of greed. It was indecision born of consideration. He didn't want to inconvenience. He didn't want to choose carelessly. And that subtle distinction changed everything. The flight attendant's response, then, was not charity. It was connection. This is why attempts to reduce the moment to celebrity privilege feel incomplete. Privilege alone does not produce that kind of spontaneous affection. Privilege can open doors, but it does not soften expressions. It does not cause someone to coo unconsciously, to smile instinctively, to offer more than what protocol requires. Something else was at work here, something less measurable and more human. And that is precisely why fans labeled it power without effort. Power, in its traditional sense, is loud. It demands. It occupies space. It asserts. But what people saw in that airplane aisle was the opposite. Jungkook did not take space. He minimized himself within it. And paradoxically, that made his presence larger. This paradox unsettles people because it challenges what we think we know about influence. How does someone command so much affection by doing so little? Perhaps the better question is this: what if influence doesn't always come from commanding at all? The emotional response from fans revealed something important about the current cultural moment. Audiences are tired of perfection. They are exhausted by constant dominance, constant confidence, constant spectacle. What cuts through the noise now is vulnerability that doesn't ask for sympathy, humility that doesn't perform itself. Jungkook's moment worked because it wasn't curated. It was almost awkward. And awkwardness, when paired with kindness, feels real. This authenticity is what made the clip endlessly replayable. People didn't just watch it once. They watched it again.
And again.
They slowed it down, zoomed in on his expression, replayed the second where he realizes he's being given the entire box. That split second of disbelief, eyes widening, laughter escaping, hands moving to cover his face, became the emotional core. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was unfiltered. He wasn't prepared to receive, and that unpreparedness resonated in a society where people are constantly bracing themselves for competition, for disappointment, for transactional exchanges. Seeing someone genuinely surprised by kindness feels almost radical. It reminds viewers of a version of the world that feels increasingly distant, one where generosity can still catch you off guard. This is why the moment sparked emotion rather than envy, and one watching felt resentment. No one thought, that should have been me. Instead, they thought, of course that happened to him. And that acceptance is telling. It suggests that Jungkook's image has evolved beyond celebrity into something closer to an emotional archetype, the talented yet humble figure who somehow remains untouched by cynicism. But is that sustainable? That question began to surface quietly among commentators. Fame has a way of hardening people. Continuous adoration can distort self-perception. And yet, moments like this suggest that Jungkook, at least for now, remains oriented outward rather than inward. His first reaction was gratitude. His second was embarrassment. There was no sense of expectation, no subtle nod of "this always happens." Instead, there was wonder. Wonder, notably, is not an emotion associated with entitlement. This distinction matters because it shapes how audiences relate to him. They don't see someone above them. They see someone who, despite being elevated, still reacts like someone who hasn't forgotten what it feels like